From George Ivanovich Gurdjieff's Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. Chapter 25. The very saintly Ashiata Shiemash sent from above to the earth. And so, my boy, now listen very attentively to the information I will give you about the very saintly, now common cosmic individual, Ashiata Shiemash, and his activities connected with the three-brained beings arising and existing on that planet Earth, which has taken your fancy. I have already told you more than once that by the all-gracious command of our infinitely loving common Father Endlessness, our highest and most saintly cosmic individuals sometimes actualize within the presence of some terrestrial, three-brained being the definitized conception of a sacred individual, in order that, having become a terrestrial being with such a presence, he might comprehend the situation on the spot, and give a suitable new direction to the process of the ordinary being existence of your favorites, thanks to which there could perhaps be removed from their presences the already crystallized consequences of the properties of the organ Kunda buffer, as well as the predisposition to new crystallizations. It was just 7 centuries before the Babylonian events of which I have spoken that there was actualized in the planetary body of a three-brained being there the definitized conception of a sacred individual named Ashiata Shiemash, who became in his turn a messenger from above, and who is now one of the highest and most saintly common cosmic sacred individuals. The conception of Ashiata Shiemash took its form in the planetary body of a boy of poor family, descended from what is called the Sumerian race, in a small village called Pispascana, situated not far from Babylon. He grew up and became a responsible being partly in this village and partly in Babylon itself, which, although not yet magnificent at that time, was already a famous city. The very saintly Ashiata Shiemash was the only messenger sent from above to your planet who by his holy labors succeeded in creating conditions in which, for a certain time, the existence of its unfortunate beings somewhat resembled the existence of three-brained beings with the same possibilities that inhabit other planets of our great universe. And this saint was also the first who, for the accomplishment of the mission assigned to him, refused to employ the customary methods established during centuries by all the other messengers from above for the three-brained beings of that planet. The very saintly Ashiata Shiemash taught nothing whatever to the ordinary three-brained beings of the earth, nor did he preach anything to them, as was done before and after him by all the other messengers sent from above with the same aim. And in consequence of this, none of his teachings in any form passed from his contemporaries, even to the third generation there, let alone to contemporary beings. Definite information relating to his very saintly activities did, however, pass from the contemporaries of the very saintly Ashiata Shiemash to the beings of following generations, through those known as initiates, by means of a certain legal monism of his deliberations under the title of the terror of the situation. In addition to this, there has been preserved from the period of his very saintly activities, and exists even to the present day, a marble tablet on which were engraved his counsels and commandments to the beings of that time. And this tablet, which has remained intact, is now the most precious sacred relic of a small group of initiated beings called the Obolgmek Brotherhood, whose place of existence is in the middle of the continent of Asia. The name Obolgmek means there are no different religions, there is only one God. On my last visit in person to the surface of your planet, I happened to become acquainted with this legal monism, which transmitted to the initiated beings of remote generations of the planet Earth the deliberations of the saintly Ashiata Shiemash under the title of the terror of the situation. This legal monism was of great help to me in elucidating certain strange aspects of the psyche of these peculiar beings, which until then I had been unable to understand at all, in spite of my careful observations of them during tens of centuries. Dear beloved grandfather, tell me, please, what does the word legal monism mean? Asked Hassan. Legal monism, Beelzebub replied, is the name given to one of the means used there for transmitting from generation to generation information about certain events of long past ages through those three-brained beings who have become worthy to be and to be called initiates. This means of transmitting information had been devised by the beings of the continent of Atlantis. For your better understanding of how information can be transmitted to beings of succeeding generations by means of a legal monism, I must tell you a little about those beings whom other beings there call initiates. In former times on the planet Earth, this word was used in one sense only, and the three-brained beings there, who were called initiates, had acquired in their presences almost identical objective data, which could be sensed by other beings. But during the last 2 centuries, this word has come to have 2 different meanings. In one sense, it is used, as in the past, to designate those beings who become initiates thanks to their personal, conscious labor and intentional suffering, and who thus acquire in themselves, as I have already told you, objective merits that are perceptible to other beings of any brain system, and that evoke trust and respect. In the other sense, this word is used as a title conferred upon one another by those beings belonging to what are called criminal gangs, which have greatly multiplied there during this period, and whose members have as their personal aim to steal from those around them only essence, values. Under the pretense of following supernatural or occult sciences, these criminal gangs are really occupied, and very successfully, with this kind of plunder. And so, any and every regular member of such a gang calls himself an initiate. Among these terrestrial initiates of new formation, there are even great initiates, and those great initiates are those who, especially at the present time, in the course of their virtuoso enterprises, go through fire, water, copper pipes, and even through all the roulette halls of Monte Carlo. Well then, my boy, legal monism is the name given to this successive transmission of information about long past events on the planet Earth from initiate to initiate of the first kind, that is, between really meritorious beings transmitting what they themselves have received from similar meritorious beings. For this means of transmitting information, we must give the beings of the continent of Atlantis their due. It was a very wise device and did indeed attain their aim. It is, in fact, the sole means by which information about certain events of long ago has accurately reached beings of later generations. As for the information that passes from generation to generation through the mass of ordinary beings of that planet, either it disappears and is completely forgotten, or, as our dear Mullah Nasser ad-Din says, all that is left of it is tail and mane and food for Scheherazade. Hence it is that when a few scraps of information about some event or other do happen to reach the beings of remote generations and the learned beings of new formation, concoct their hodgepodge out of these scraps, a most peculiar and instructive phenomenon occurs when all the cockroaches hear what is in this hodgepodge. The evil spirit of St. Vitus immediately enters their common presences and dances to his heart's content. As for the way in which the contemporary learned beings of the planet Earth concoct their hodgepodge from scraps of information that reach them, this is very well defined in one of the wise sayings of our dear Mullah Nasser ad-Din, consisting of the following words. A flea has been put into the world for just one thing, that when it sneezes, that deluge is released, which our learned beings so dearly love to describe. I must tell you that when I used to exist among your favorites, it was sometimes almost impossible for me to keep from bursting out laughing, as they would say, when one or another of the learned beings there delivered a lecture or told me personally about some past events of which I myself had been an eyewitness. These lectures and stories are full of such comical fictions that neither our arch-cunning Lucifer nor his aides could have invented them, even if they wanted to.